Ayesha, can you unmute and check?
Yeah.
I think we can.
Okay.
Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. I will just start by introducing myself. So I'm Ali Mudis. For this webinar, I have around 7 years of experience in analytics and machine learning. I started my career back in 2015 as an ETL BI consultant. Then I worked for another company, Boardmetric, as part of their predictive analytics function. And started my master's from UIUC in data science. Recently, since 2018, I was heading AI and analytics function for Nestle and Oto's Mobility. And this year, January, I started my own company by the name of Data Pilot. And as far as my passion for data science is concerned, I live and think data all the time. So yes, that's about myself. Please.
Hi guys, so my name is Fawad and I'm a data strategist and a consultant for multiple companies, both in Pakistan and in the US. I'm also the founder of CSJ Pakistan. It's a platform to essentially train people professionally in the area of analytics and data science. So that's about myself. Glad to be part of this call today. Over to you, Ali.
Thank you for. We have some really great speakers as part of our webinar today. So Aliya Ahmed, she's currently heading commercial business communications and consumer insights at UBL. As far as her experience is concerned, she has headed the marketing function for Western Union, United Colors of Benetton, and has around 20 years of experience. Then we have Ayesha. She has extensive experience in marketing as well. Started her career with Adcom, then went to Folio 3. Then she has worked with Alkaram, Food Panda, and now working as country manager marketing for SWVL. Has around 7 years of experience. And then we have Tanya. She started with Food Panda, and then worked for the YE as their marketing manager. And currently, she's been heading marketing and branding at Careem and has around 7 years of experience as well. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I hope we're able to make this webinar as fruitful as possible for our attendees. So just a glimpse of the agenda of what we will talk about today. A glimpse of what Data Pilot is and what we do. Data Science Journey. We have Fawad with us, who founded Data Science Journey, and he will give you a walkthrough of what Data Science Journey is. Then I'll talk about data-driven marketing. What is data-driven marketing? How is it different from digital marketing? Then we have guest speakers and panel discussion. We have 3 questions for our guest speakers. And then we have Q&A session where we will have all the audience who, if they want to ask any questions from us or from the panel, the floor will be open for 15 minutes by the end of the webinar. As far as Data Pilot is concerned, we're actually an analytics and AI/ML services company. Our forte is actually artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we're experts in machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, chatbots. Then we have actually, as far as my experience is concerned, I've worked with different banks and insurance companies implementing end-to-end BI and warehousing for them. So we are, our core expertise lies in warehousing and BI as well. And we have been focusing on data-driven marketing a lot. We've actually been doing a project on data-driven marketing for a retail fashion brand that has actually resulted in some great results and business value for the client. And we believe that we need to create some awareness as to why data-driven marketing is important and how can companies benefit from it. So that's just an overview about what Data Pilot is. Fawad, if you could please.
So guys, I'm the founder of Data Science Journey, and Data Science Journey was formed in 390. The intuition behind data science journey was when I came back from a master's in Australia and having consulted multiple companies. The thing was like, how do we learn data science? And it was a buzzword at that time. So we came up with a curriculum where a participant, mostly professionals, would pass through, and they would be exposed to things like Python, machine learning, data mining, statistics, data visualizations like Tableau and Power BI. And ultimately, they would sort of graduate with a hands-on knowledge of how they can go through a complete machine learning pipeline. And so far, we've trained around more than 150 graduates. That includes mostly CEOs, directors, managers of companies like Deloitte, Telenor, Avaris, and all those companies, Huawei, some of them. So we're currently sort of looking to expand into international market, mostly in the UK, and that's where we headed for. So that's a brief sort of overview about DSJ itself. Over to you, Ali.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
could you
so
guys hear me?
yes. Okay, so we start with how data has grown exponentially in the 21st century. So basically, you see all these top companies, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, Tesla, these companies have contributed a lot to the data generation. So if you can see, 2010 onwards, there has been exponential growth in the data that is generated, and then eventually, cloud computing taking place, and then growing when you talk about AWS, Azure, Google, etc. The computing power itself has increased a lot, and then we see a lot of data being crunched in order to extract meaningful insights. So the whole point of the whole precedence here is that since data is growing year by year and even day by day now, it's very important for companies to make the right use of it and eventually use that to take decisions. I will just give an overview of what data-driven marketing is. So basically, I've actually kept this pretty, very straightforward. So what your friends like. It's similar to just talking the customer's language. So when we talk about data-driven marketing, it's about interacting with your customer in a personalized way, and that's where data-driven marketing is different. Currently, you see companies doing marketing differently, but data-driven marketing is all about establishing that personalized experience with your customer, be it Facebook, Instagram, email marketing, etc. It has to be very targeted and personalized where customers like your content and are actually able to connect with what you're saying. So, and data-driven marketing is all about taking your marketing actions based on data. It's not intuition based. It's all so every action and decision you make is backed by data. And then you actually it's very important in data-driven marketing to actually understand your customer base and you personalize your marketing message accordingly. I will just, this is very important specifically for marketers, that how is marketing being done traditionally versus how is data-driven marketing different? So when you look at traditional marketing, that's more of intuition-based strategy to compel the target audience to buy. So basically, you're coming up with marketing campaigns, but some campaigns, or maybe all of them, are not really backed by data. As to so when I say backed by data, you need to analyze as to historically what and what hasn't, right? And that's where you come up with personalized marketing campaigns and coming up with the right campaigns which could actually help you get the maximum ROI. But random campaigns on social media without any strategy, right? So a lot of times when you talk about that, I've interacted with a lot of different companies, and what I felt is that the marketing strategy sometimes is not backed by data. It's all coming up with content calendar and posting on social media for the sake of it. And then not analyzing the effectiveness of marketing campaigns the right way. When I say the right way, marketing is not about reach, impressions, engagement, clicks. It's about the valuation of your marketing campaign is actually connecting that clicks, engagement, etc. actually with sales. So what you did and what happened, right? That's very important. You actually analyze the effectiveness of marketing campaigns in terms of sales, and that's it. Because by the end of the day, it's all about the numbers you're producing. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Great. When you talk about data-driven marketing, it's basically, can you guys share my screen? Can you see? Can
Uh,
you guys see my screen? Okay, wait. I think I lost connection somewhere. Can you see it now? Oh, great. Let me just make sure that. Okay. Sorry for this pause. Okay. So I was on this guide. I was talking about traditional and data-driven marketing. And when you talk about data-driven marketing being different from traditional marketing, it's all about consolidating data from different sources and then eventually, making decisions. When I say different sources, it's about, extracting data from Facebook ads, Instagram ads, um, your website, your sales, your POS, whatever you're using to record your sales. That's very important. So actually, connect your sales data with marketing. Personalized content, very important, as I mentioned before as well. That personalizing the content and ensuring that your campaigns are data driven, you speaking the customer language and A/B testing, and then there's a lot more to this, but I've just kept this very simple. When I say A/B testing, it's about A/B testing your campaigns, A/B testing your landing pages, etc. It's very important as to this is so A/B testing will help you analyze what works, what doesn't, and then eventually, because by then you need to analyze as to what is benefits for you in terms of sales and ROI. This is about the common mistakes marketers and agencies make. This is some of the mistakes we've noticed, and maybe there could be more. But so when I talk about posting randomly on social media, this was about coming up with content calendars which are not backed by data, and just so for instance, you need to make sure number one, understanding the customer sales, whoever your customer is, what are the sales doing? And when I say sales, not only sales going beyond, like for instance, the customers, the persona, etc. So all of that needs to be backed by, your content calendar needs to be backed by the sales, and your strategy has to be data driven. Then not looking at the right metrics in marketing campaigns. As I mentioned, reach, impressions, engagement, that's not enough. You need to see, okay, what's the return on ad spend, or how many sales were you able to do that specific campaign. And not connecting marketing with sales data, very important. Sending mass emails and SMS. So a lot of brands I see don't, specifically in Pakistan, don't send personalized emails because, and you see that mass emails don't have that person. When I say personalized, it's about sending that targeted email to the specific customer and who sees what he likes, right? And eventually, the CTR is very high likely to increase. Why? Because you've seen the content you want to see. There's a reason why Amazon is the leader in this because they will always send you personalized emails. And propensity to open personalized emails is very, very high as compared to mass emails. Completely reliant on Google Analytics. So as far as all the market fields are concerned, UTM tracking is not 100% accurate. If you didn't know, you can validate this. So a lot of times, I noticed that marketers rely on Google Analytics, but I personally think that there's beyond to Google Analytics as well, because firstly, UTM is not enough. Yes, Google Analytics is not used. Why? Because you have a lot to Google Analytics, like multi-channel funnels is trying to understand how your customers behave with your website and money converts. So firstly, using the power of Google Analytics and then not completely relying on Google Analytics, because you have Google Analytics as well. So for instance, how does a customer uses your app, and that's where you can actually incorporate Google Analytics events into your app. See, okay, how is the interaction taking place, and if there are any UI UX issues you need to fix. And then no data-driven ad spend budgeting. When I say ad spend budgeting, currently what's happening is, for instance, there's a company X and decides to spend like maybe $10,000 a month on marketing campaign. How did you come up with that number? How did you come up with $10,000? That needs to be backed by data historically, and there could be multiple ways you do it. You could actually predict as to what marketing medium is helping you the most. For instance, Facebook could be giving you more sales estimate to Instagram, or Instagram could be giving you more sales estimate to Google, or Google Ads could be more effective than Facebook or Instagram. So once you analyze that, you need to actually make sure that you're actually spending, that you're coming up with the right number which would give you maximum ROI and return on ad spend, right? It's very important not to come up with intuition-based numbers. That I should be spending like $10,000 this month. That number should be backed by data, and you should be able to predict, okay, if I spend $10,000 and I'll distribute it, segregate it across different marketing channels, this gives you an ROI or predicted sales that I will be able to get. So just some mistakes I've noticed, and probably very important for marketers to understand. And this is basically, the data-driven way, this is the right way. So you have, as I mentioned, you have different sources: Facebook, Google Analytics, Instagram, Shopify, Google Ads, YouTube Ads, whatever. The whole point is consolidating that data into one small data mart, and that's very important. And when I say predictive, descriptive, so you could have some different dashboards. I'll give you some examples as to what sort of dashboards you could have to actually analyze your spend across different channels. When you don't consolidate these sources, what happens is you open Facebook ads separately, you Instagram ads separately. You're not able to connect sales and marketing. So it's very important you connect both of these and then have a holistic view as to what's happening. So for instance, when I launch this campaign, this was the effect on my sales. And I actually noticed that a lot of, maybe just not pointing it out, but trying to help marketers, that agencies who are actually handling customer accounts, you need to make sure you have like complete sales data for that customer, because how do you actually run marketing campaigns for a customer where you're not aware of their sales, right? So for instance, when I say sales, it has to be realistic. It has to be very, like, for instance, centric, customer centric, to ensure that your sales and your what sort of customers buy what sort of products, and this applies to all different companies, all different brands. You can see the different dashboards. This is just to give you an idea as to what sort of analytics you could, build on top of that consolidated data mart. This is just an example for you guys to understand. So, for instance, this dashboard is giving you a split of Facebook spend and Google spend. Then you're actually, saying, okay, with respect to each month, how much have I spent? What's my budget? How much have I achieved? And then return on ad spend by month. So, for instance, what this, if you could see in this graph, this actually is telling you return on ad spend by your marketing channel, which is Facebook and Google. And then eventually you actually launch different campaigns based on different maybe categories of products. You need to identify, for instance, if I give an example of Careem, and Careem Foods launches a campaign on a specific restaurant or specific categories, for instance, Chinese, then you're supposed to come up with the return on ad spend with respect to that specific campaign, and there are ways where you can actually calculate that. And this all relates to how you're naming your campaigns and how data is actually extracted into that specific data mart which I was talking about. So you need to see what works, what doesn't. Then there's another, if you can see over here, this is basically cost per action with respect to Facebook and Google. Again, This would be the two sources. Maybe you have like 4 to 5 different marketing channels where you're spending the money on. You need to have a holistic perspective as to what's working, what's not, and where do you need to spend the bucks on to get maximum return on ad spend. This is another one. When you talk about objectives on Facebook, you need to see, okay, what is giving you maximum revenue. As I mentioned, like for instance, if you see this graph, it's all about conversion, product catalog, brand awareness, what is working, what is not. And then this is another one where you actually have breakdown of revenue. How much revenue are you getting from different channels, Facebook, Google, organic traffic, etc. So this is just a glimpse of how like it should be done, and obviously there's beyond that. This just give you an idea as to what's the best way to do it. Companies harnessing the power of data-driven marketing. So you have Amazon. You all know that Amazon is came up with this personalized recommendation engine on the website, which is pretty accurate. And there's a reason why Amazon customers are very sticky when it comes to product stickiness is very high, because people see what they like and then eventually end up buying. So for instance, if I talk about Amazon, Amazon generates 30% of sales from its recommendation engine, which is pretty big. Then you have Coca-Cola. Obviously, you all know that Coca-Cola is pretty good when it comes to marketing. If you didn't know about Starbucks loyalty program, they've actually Starbucks currently generates 50% of their revenue from their loyalty app. So this is all about personalization. It's all about that data-driven marketing and engaging your customers in a way that you speak their language and they always see what they like. And currently, Starbucks has around 19.3 million members. These stats are from 2020. So just to give you a million members of their loyalty app. You have Walmart. Walmart is actually very good when it comes to crunching data, coming up with different algorithms, analyzing data, and then taking decisions accordingly. These are some interesting statistics. So this is very important for you to understand that for instance, by Salesforce, 52% of consumers are likely to switch brands if a company doesn't personalize communication to them. So I've been mentioning again and again that data-driven marketing is all about personalization. Then you have McKinsey. Data-driven campaigns are poised to increase sales in core products to more than 10%, which is actually pretty big. So you can actually have a look at the impact data-driven marketing has. Then data-driven technology results in increase of up to 50% online transactions, 30% return ad spend, with up to that's by BCG. And then another one, which is Forbes, companies who adopt data-driven marketing are 6 times more likely to be profitable year by year. And that's the reason why probably it's backed by all the top, consulting firms. And that's why we're stressing a lot on data-driven, marketing. And we have experts, Ayesha, Tanya, and Ayesha, to actually, just highlight the experience. So I will just start with panel discussion. So guys, if you could just give you a 1-minute introduction of yourself, and then we can start with the first question.
So Ali, I missed the last part. Ask me or Ayesha?
No, anyone. Aliya, you can start with Tanya and Ayesha, 1-minute introduction, and then we can move on to the questions.
All right. So hello, everyone. This is Aliya. As Ali explained in the beginning, I'm a marketer with almost 20 years of experience. Currently, I'm working with UBL as head of digital communications and customer insights. I've got some data scientists as part of my team, and we try to bring in a data-driven culture within UBL, and that's why I'm here to talk to you guys. And before UBL, I was working in Dubai at Western Union, and I was there for a period of 7 years. So primarily coming from the financial services sector. That's it. Over to you, Ayesha.
Thank you, Aliya. Hello, everybody. This is Ayesha, and I am currently heading SWVL, heading the marketing department of SWVL, and it's been like a little more than 1 year that I have been associated with the brand. And before that, I was leading the marketing department at Food Panda, and before that, I was with Careem and Adcom. Over here at SWVL, I'm looking after the whole consumer funnel that starts with awareness journey to the loyalty and retention, and of course, creating brand love. It's a relatively new brand in the market, so lots of focus is on creating brand love and top of mind awareness. The beauty of having of being in a startup and in a tech driven company is that we talk numbers, and that's how we strategize, and we work on the budgets, and we work on the spends, and we work on the return on investment, because each penny for a startup or for a relatively new brand is very important, and we need to justify each spend against any return that we're looking at. So that's why I'm here as well, to discuss these sort of hacks when it comes to growth driven marketing as well as data driven marketing. Over to you, Tanya. Can you guys hear me?
Now,
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, yeah, so I'll thank you again, Ali and Fawad, Aliya and Ayesha, thank you. So I'll just be very quick. Ali's already spoken about how I've been working with Careem for the past few years. When Careem was not as big as it is today, we started with a small startup that is now, under Uber. We are now not only a ride-hailing platform, we also have, other services, including food deliveries, payments, and so on. As Ayesha mentioned, I think she also comes from a tech startup background. So the beauty of working in a startup and a tech startup is that you have access to data, direct data. So you don't have to go to anyone else to talk to your captains or your customers or any of your stakeholders. You can talk to them yourself. You can provide them whatever they want directly, and that is the beauty of working in such an environment. And yeah, I look forward to what you guys have to say. And yeah, thank you.
Hello. So I'd like to ask, moderate this question and answer session. So, first question to the panel, please.
Sorry, Ali, I just lost you. I think I'm having a bit of trouble with my internet.
So, no worries. The first question to the panel is, how will market respond to COVID-19 visibility? This is also influence in the law. And as far as marketing
is it just me, or you guys can hear Ali? I can't.
No, likewise, there's a lot of distortion. Ali, your voice is breaking. I think he wants us to answer this question.
I can sort of
Yeah.
go ahead and ask that. So, guys, I think you guys are sort of on the forefront of, having those primary data sets that can actually help you guys to sort of start out the interventions where required, right? And we know that over the past, let's say, a couple of years, COVID has literally forced everyone to sort of go back and reassess how businesses are done. But when you talk about particularly about marketing in itself, what impact has COVID sort of made in terms of assessing what needs to be spent on marketing, what should be the marketing strategies, what should be, like, let's say, the CLV of a particular customer. So just wanted to get sort of feedback from you guys, what your experiences have been over the past couple of years.
I think I'll start first.
Yeah,
so
sure,
when
sure.
COVID,
You
yeah.
Yeah, when COVID struck, we were in that situation, in that ambiguous situation that we didn't know what's coming next, because it was the first time that we were in that pandemic, and there were a lot of myths happening, a lot of volatility, uncertainty, and ambiguity, right? And in that ambiguous world, the only thing that mattered was the data that we were having and that we were working on, right? I think the biggest example is that while people were sitting at home, we saw a trend that there's a 40% increase in the digital media consumption. Overall, a 40% increase in media consumption, and then digital media was reached some next level sort of consumption where people were having people were using their applications for different sort of movies or any online purchases, as well as YouTube took a took a hike as well. There was uptake in all sorts of consumption when it comes to digital. And on the contrary, while these conventional channels where you talk about out of home or even TV for that matter, it resulted in a lot of the people were not on the roads. People were not were not there on the roads to see your communications on on out of home channels. People were not really interested in watching news because they were done listening to the COVID cases rising and deaths and everything. So a lot of negative sentiments, right? I think that really helped us was us revisiting our strategies and having like a whole digital ecosystem where we are planning and where we are working on more of social media platforms. I remember during that time I was working on a campaign, and that was heavily 360 campaign, and it was based on conventional channels, and a certain percentage was digital. But then the whole campaign then was around digital, right? And that resulted in a lot of traffic and sessions. And because especially I think that Tanya and Alia would agree as well, where we saw that there is an uptick in online payments as well. There is an uptick in consumption of online purchases, where you talk about online purchases of your clothing, dresses, and groceries, and even food items for that matter, right? So yeah, it was something that data only helped us, because otherwise it was a very ambiguous world for us, and we didn't really know that what to do next.
Great. Alia, please.
Yeah, so I'll continue this. Basically, those still are actually unprecedented times where many businesses didn't know how to respond to it, because obviously there was no historical, data which was giving them kind of a way forward in this particular scenario. So since I also look after the product side of, the things, I would like to take one step back and also talk about from the readiness point of view. Many businesses didn't have the digital arm, for example, to offer solution to their customers. So their biggest worry at that point of time was to how to reach out to the customers. Those businesses which were kind of ready or partially ready were gearing up to offer this digital solutions to their customers, and then comes the marketing part of it. So I think that was the time where people were in total chaos and confusion how to go about things. But when such kind of crisis comes to you, you also become creative and innovative and comes with solutions that can help you navigate through such problems. So it was a very interesting period. Since I come from the digital banking group and UBL, so we were ready. So, Ali, you have given a lot of examples of data-driven marketing, or for that matter, contextual marketing. I'll just share some of the examples from my industry. So, although we were part of essential services and all the bank branches were open, but obviously people were hesitant to visit bank branches in these circumstances. So, we had to help them understand that what can they do by sitting at home. So one was, for example, bill payments. We saw that our XYZ branches have a lot of traffic where customers were going to pay their bills. We send them personalized notification, SMS, emailers to let them know that you can pay your utility bills from the comfort of your home by using UBL digital app. And this is the process of how you add the biller and how you actually pay the bill. So these kind of communication, as you were also mentioning, Ali, that it has to be very personalized, and it needs to find the solution for the problem that they were having and guide them. In Pakistan, unfortunately, the digitization is relatively slow because people are still hesitant, especially in terms of, financial services. They're very hesitant to adopt these services. They are scared that, what if I press a wrong button and something happens? So not only these personalized communication, but also sometimes we have to, handhold through telephone calls or through chats or through bots to make them understand the process. But what I've seen is once we actually explain to them how it works, then they stick to the digital services because obviously that's a lot of convenience for them. Also, when this happened, what we did was we created personas for our customers. So we wanted to identify that, who are the early adopters and, who are the digital laggards, which are the customers we should be working with, because we had a bandwidth and we had to also ensure that, we help customers who can jump on the train immediately, and then there are people who will take their own sweet time. So these personas helped us identify customers जिनको हम फौरी तौर पे जो है इस digital arena के अंदर लेकर आ सके. And obviously these personas are based on your geographic locations, gender, age, you're living in a rural or urban city, your preferences, your hobbies, etc. So there's a lot of data available with the bank, and we're able to, draw these personas for our customers. Okay, is my time for this question?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Your call. Yes.
Cool. I've got a couple of thoughts. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
talk
sure.
about it.
We will actually, yeah, you can talk about them when we, move on to the next question. Tanya,
Sure.
thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Ayesha and Aliya have covered some really good points. I think the most important thing for us, so agility was the most important in COVID, right? Because if you guys remember, things were changing every day. Every day we had new SOPs, new, COVID hotspot zones.
This is now your test. Please remain silent for the test results. This test
Sorry, guys, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, so where was that? Yeah, so I was talking about how things were changing in COVID every day, right? So what really helped us with Careem, we were obviously shut for about a month and a half because of, we were the most affected, one of the most affected industries. What helped us the most was direct, communication that we could have with our captains and with our customers. Yeah, so every day things were changing, so we could talk to them directly, which is why I think it's so important that you build a direct connection with your customers and your captains. You have the data, so you can speak to them. So every day there were new COVID hotspot zones where we had to tell customers and captains, hey, we can't take rides from here, unfortunately, because the government is giving us such policies, and things are changing every day. So I think that helped us the most, and I think digital Ayesha has already covered. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
So, Fawad, if you would like to shed some light on this question, maybe.
Sorry, Ali, your
Hello?
voice is sort of breaking out. Do you want me to
Can't hear.
sort of go on that one?
Yes, so I will start with this. Can you guys hear me? Hello? I think there's some connectivity
Yep.
issues. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Now
so
I can.
you go on.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, I think that's pretty awesome. It's like, I think what really happened here is like companies are forced to use data in Pakistan, particularly because of the fact that things were so dynamic. And that brings us to the second question now. Is like, people always, or companies always go for the best ROIs in terms of marketing spend, right? But generally, when you have experienced people running the show, they generally rely on, let's say, their own sort of gut feeling, or their own sort of mental schema on what the ROI will be instead of what the ROI should be. Now that is totally a data activity. So in your own companies, how do you guys go ahead and assess, let's say, the ROIs on the ATL or the BTL activities, if they are applicable, or in general, if we just talk about, let's say, the ROIs in terms of the efficacy of the marketing spend? How do you guys exactly go about it? Because I see a lot of companies struggle to actually calculate this ROI effectively. Uh, so just curious to sort of, if you guys can shed light on that.
I'll just maybe start on this one. So I think this is a conversation that happens between all marketing teams and finance teams. Ayesha and Aliya would agree. This is something that comes up in every campaign discussion. Oh, what's the ROI on this, right? So how are we ensuring we're going to get customers or captains or whatever through this campaign if we're going to put it on an ATL? Either that could be a radio ad, it could be a TV ad, it could be a billboard. But for the longest time, I think there was no proper, calculation. There were numbers that are shared by agencies, media agencies, but I don't think there was any, efficacy, you could say, in that. But I think there's a way that we have hacked it. We, as in, I think the industry now, I think most brands have hacked it. For us, it's simple, right? So you put a CTA on your collateral. So, for example, I'll give you an example. You put a promo code, yeah. So even it would work for SWVL as well. It would work for Foodpanda and as well as for Ayesha, and it works for Careem as well. So you put a specific promo code, and then you kind of calculate the usage of that promo code in that area, and that's how you can calculate the ROI of that specific asset. However, we all need to be very mindful. So sometimes, so digital ads and ATL and BTL ads work separately in this way, right? So digital is very, in that moment, it's very short term. You look at an ad, you tap on it, and you might convert. But for ATL and BTL, it takes time for people to convert, right? So you need to show them the ad or the collateral a few times for them to convert. So it's very important to keep that in mind. It's possible that they might see your promo code today, they might not use it, but it's possible that they might remember your brand Careem and they might use the brand, maybe 2 months down the road. So that's where I think the confusion comes in. But yeah, this is a very good way of calculating your ROI, which is putting CTA. And another thing that you can do, that you also do, is so again, if you have access to data, you can also look at your rides in that specific area. So for example, putting a billboard on Shara Faisal, and what you can do is you can monitor your rides on Shara Faisal for the next few weeks. And if you see a difference, then you can kind of explain that to the communication you do in that area.
Cool, that sounds awesome, but the question then remains is like, do you have that consolidated data to calculate the ROI in the first place? Is it sort of aggregate? Is one on board to take this as the ground truth, or is it something that is still evolving?
So the data is basically going to, if someone else wants to take that, but the data is going to come in from the usage of your CTA, if I'm saying that.
I mean, just to add in digital, very straightforward, right? So you can calculate your cost of acquisition, cost of lead, return on ad spend, etc., and that's why digital marketing is, on the rise and people are going after it. For traditional media, be it ATL and BTL, it was always been a challenge. And I think what we were able to do in Western Union and even here was look at the marketing mix modeling, where basically you look at the past historical data and you predict future patterns based on that. So marketing mix modeling, so I'll just explain in layman terms that suppose you're investing $100 on TV, $100 on radio, $200 on digital, and $300 on BTL activation. It will tell you that if you double your digital spend, let's suppose from $200 to $400, your sale will grow by 5%. But this requires that you feed in a lot of data in the past, so it takes learnings from the historical data. So that was the best scenario in terms of from the traditional media point of view. Other than that, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I think that's what intelligent recommendations really mean. It's like, that's going into the predictive side of things. Awesome to hear that. Aisha, do you have anything to say on this?
So over here, since Tanya and Ayesha, they both have mentioned that it has always been a challenge, calculating ROIs when it comes to specifically ATL channels, right? So what we have started doing in our company is, okay, so we set OKRs based on the historical data that we have. So let's say we have targets of everything, right? We say that we have a new users target of, let's say, 20,000 per month, or let's say 100,000 new users in a quarter, right? Now that's where our backworking starts. Now we don't have any budgets. We have to build a case that in order to acquire, in order to have like 100,000 customers at the end of the quarter, we need to do these many things, right? Now, some will be sort of, now then the marketing funnel comes into play, right? Then we talk about this much amount of the money is going to be spent on awareness, and which is going to be catering to the top of the funnel, right? And then we will have a bottom of the funnel as well, where we will be looking at the acquisitions. Now, acquisitions can't run in isolation, right? It needs to have, a proper ATL awareness communication going on as well. And that's where once you identify that, yes, by awareness channel, we will be reaching out to X many people. And from this X many people, our historical data says that 10% of the people will probably download your application. And then let's say out of that 10% of the people who has downloaded your application there will be just 1% who will convert out of curiosity. And then maybe 0.5% will take the first rights. That's how you calculate, cost per acquisition, cost per first rights. And then, so slowly and gradually you kind of build that case that this is the amount that you will require for the next quarter in order for you to reach 100,000 new customers at the end of the time period. But then again, that is something that you are just doing when you're just looking at the data. You don't know, probably 1 month down the line you have COVID situation, fifth wave. Then of course you have to make the adjustments. But that's where essentially what we have started doing, that instead of us having the budget and then kind of justifying the spend, what we are doing is we are doing the back working, where we have the OKRs based on the historical data, and then we then ask for a budget, that this is the budget that is required in order to achieve that target. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Ayesha. So last question, before we take some questions from the audience. This is around, the challenges you face if you want to implement data-driven marketing in your organization. So there could be, you could be following data-driven, and what challenges did you face? Or if you want to incorporate data-driven marketing, obviously it's a cultural shift. People are used to traditional marketing. What challenges have you faced or you would face if you were to implement data-driven marketing? So if you could, we will start with Aliya, then Tanya, and then Ayesha. So a minute per question for this question, and then we'll take, questions from the audience.
I think first and the foremost is driving a data-driven culture and strategy. In the organization, everyone has to realize this, that you cannot make decision based on gut feel, or if the president is saying something because he likes it, or if the CEO is driving a certain agenda, or any of the senior member of the team. It has to be based on data, and that needs to be bought in from every member of the team. And then similarly, the data are also stored in silos in many organizations. So it has to be in the form of a data lake. You need to have a 360 view of the customer in order to ensure that you can take, actionable insights. You can turn data into actionable insights. So that is very important. Accuracy of data, garbage in and garbage out. I mean, so while it's very important that our frontline officers, the people who are gathering that data, are very conscious of the fact that if they are just taking a box, it will put garbage into the data form. So across the organization, they need to realize that every box matters, every field matters. And then also similarly identifying the best tools, and you've talked about this, Ali, in your presentation, that what kind of tools you are going to leverage in order to reach out to your customers, to evaluate, to do analytics. If it's just one tool, it's a combination of the tools, and how do you integrate these tools within each other. So this is very important.
Yeah, so I'll just add to that. Yes, of course, tools are definitely a concern. Another thing that I think all marketers face is that, yes, of course, so companies, so tech companies like Careem, we have access to data, right? So we know how our customers are performing, as in, when they're taking rides and when captains are available, when they're not available. And so we obviously are looking at data so we can give the best experience to our captains and customers, every second, every minute, things are measured every second, every minute, I'm not even talking about days, talking about like, minute by minute, right? And that is great to kind of, so for example, I'll give you an example. If you launch a campaign, naturally what we want to all of us want to kind of measure the performance of that campaign on those days' numbers, right? So, oh, hey, we launched a campaign at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., why didn't we get rides, right? So that's the kind of mindset that we end up having because we're so data centric. But I think something that's important to know here is that there are two things. There is core marketing, which is very short term, right? So it's today's rides, today's orders, today's deliveries, today's payments. Brand is something that's very long term, that may or may not be measured by analytics. Yeah, so it's more based on emotions and affinity and brand love, right? So these are things that you might not be able to measure through data, and this is kind of a conversation that happens in every marketing team, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, great, we launched a campaign, we got the numbers, but to build a brand, it's more long term. So these are some challenges, and I think exactly what we were also saying in the previous question was that data is hard to find. So it's really hard to kind of equate emotions and values and brand love with numbers. It can be done, of course, with the brand health tracker, and we do it as well. But so this is kind of like something that we could say is a challenge, and marketers kind of face this every day, and we're trying to work on it.
Great, Ayesha.
Yeah, I think I agree, and Tanya, shared a very interesting point where the qualitative and the quantitative data, the importance of qualitative data is something that is missing in the market. I think as an industry, as a Pakistani market, we have achieved that position where now companies have understood already that the importance of data and why and how to have, the analysts and, these data scientists in the company, right? But the qualitative data is something that still is missing. So I'll give you one example. The whole company would agree to having, to having the data where we say that these are the people that we have acquired, this is the retention value, this is the CLV, yeah, understood. But what they will miss on is that why is that one cohort have been healthy and the other cohort being unhealthy, right? Because the healthy cohort will always be the cohort that is coming from your communication strategy based on brand affinity, brand love, and while your tactical campaign may have very good results for a shorter period of time, but usually as the market practice, what I've seen is they're always very unhealthy cohort. They have a very low CLV. They will probably take your ride because they might have a promo code, or they're getting a free ride, or maybe they're just doing it out of curiosity. But people coming from brand love and people coming from once they're educated properly by the brand, they are there for you because they are your loyals, because they're only downloading your app and only taking your services just because they want to, and they are your basically the real consumers, I would say. So I think this is something that is lacking at the moment, where we need to understand the importance of brand love and brand affinity that majority of the companies are lacking at the moment.
Great, thank you for the great insight, Aliya, Tanya, Ayesha, Fawad. I think I just wait for the questions from the audience. But I think you guys have addressed most of the questions pretty well, and let's just wait if you So I have a question before someone asks, because I don't see any questions. Let me just check. Okay, wait. Okay, we have a question. I have a quick question for Tanya. So, wait. Okay, so there's a question, Junaid Hanif. Since this is a relatively new field, do you think the skill set available in the human resources market up to our current needs? Basically, what sort of skill set do we have, like people with the right skill set to do this, data-driven marketing, like this sort of question? And what's like when it comes to finding the right resources, are you guys able to find them easily, or is it difficult? Tanya, Ayesha, Aliya.
Yeah, so I think something that we
Tanya, if
believe in
you
Careem. Yeah, can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, Tanya,
So I
we
think
can.
yeah, something that we believe in a lot at Careem is, so you don't need the skill set, you need the right mindset. So data, technology, just this way of working is really new, right? When I started back in this industry, nobody really talked about using data in such ways. Nobody really talked about technology. We at Careem, what our co-founders did was we got the right people with the right mindset to learn, and then on the job they learned the skill set. And so today, if you look at you look at the Careem, quote unquote Careem mafia that has gone from Careem and launched so many more startups. Of 10 years down, before, these people didn't know all of these things. They learned them on the job, and then now they're implementing them in their own startups. So that's kind of how the whole industry is going. So yeah, that's my short and simple answer to this.
Great. Great. Yeah, Aliya, one question to you. What is the one most important aspect of incorporating data-driven marketing into digital marketing? Is it to gain more insights as to how the buyers engage with our brand? A question by one of the members we have.
Yeah, so we talked about personalized marketing. The gone were the days when one single message will work for all of the customer base. It has to be personalized. It needs to be curated for that customer, keeping into consideration the requirement, the solutions that we can offer to that customer. But it has to be end to end. So once you have the insight, and if you do nothing about it, then also it's an insight for the sake of getting an insight. So action is together with that insight as important as the insight itself is.
Great. Ayesha, a question. What are the top 3 ways you were using data early on in your career that now that you look back on it might not have been the most efficient metrics?
I think back in the days we
So for
used to
instance,
have
maybe when you started your career, you were looking.
Yeah. So when I started off my career, it was I started off with a market research agency, right? So it was us handling a lot of Excel sheets with hundreds and hundred thousands of rows and data, and we used to have these formulas placed and all of that. So we back in the days we never thought of that we will have an SQL query run and it will have the results, right? So I think I would just say it was all Data Studio and Excel for us, but now in the world of Tableau, Looker, and Amplitude and Google Analytics and all of those tools, Clarisight, the life has become much more easier. So I can't say top 3. It's just Excel sheet that we used to work on. It was all manual for us. And we never understood that how important these tools are, because I remember at that time the conversation used to be which company is going to take that hit, the budget hit of getting those tools, because those are so expensive. But yeah, now it's very common and we can't even function without it.
One last question to Tanya. So one question came from the audience. How do you create customer personas?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So for us at Careem, we create customer personas majorly on use cases. So I think Aliya had also mentioned that initially, but there are of course use cases depending on how you are using the platform, right? So we know that there are some customers who are office goers. So we're looking at the rise and we know that, hey, they're using Careem early in the morning and in the evening. Then we know there are parents, so there are moms who are using Careem to, to drop their kids off to school and pick them up from school. So that's another, persona altogether. In these personas, then we also break it down to regular users, right? So then there are some customers who are using Careem on a regular basis. So those are high value customers. Then we have our high value low customers who are using Careem 15 times in a month. So you basically break them down in use cases and then the number of times that each use case is repeated. I hope that answers your question. I think Ali's voice is breaking.
Yeah, Ayesha, before we end, any word?
Ali, I think we can't hear you from the other side. Okay, I think is internet. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think guys, one last question from my side. I've been pretty curious on this. I've been sort of consulting large FMCGs in Pakistan and some of the Fortune 100 companies in the world, and one of the things right off the bat that I'm seeing is,
Hello, I'm
are you guys
sorry.
adopting any
Yeah.
machine learning
Go ahead.
or AI related technology to sort of segment your customers, like clustering analysis or RFM or any other sort of strategies that you guys are using?
So, for what some of the best, solutions are given by SAP, Adobe, in banking sector. We just bought the Temenos. It also has a marketing platform as part of it. So, these kind of solutions help us do the segmenting, clustering, and also predictive modeling, and then also, sometimes publishing. So these are end-to-end integrated tools for analytics, for targeting customers as well as. So yes.
Awesome. Right.
Tanya, would you like to? Oh, are you saying something? Okay, great. So last question before we end this is another question. Are there any specific platforms you're using to gauge the ROI of BDL activities, like activation or any other? So basically, it's around like if you were to calculate ROI of ATL or BTL, would you use any specific tool or how would you do it? Or you would just like, for instance, I read it up somewhere that some companies place QR codes on the billboard and see, okay, how many times maybe it was used, or a promo code on that specific billboard to actually see, okay, how many times was it used to kind of come up with an ROI. So if you could shed some light, this question asked by Saad.
Over here, we're using Adjust, and we're using Looker, and we're using Clarisites. And these are the tools that helps us, in calculating the results from each of the, platform that we're using. So Adjust is usually used for Bitly links and the QR codes, and for Clarisites is mainly for ATL channels, and Looker is for the data, like basically telling you the customer base, supply and demand situation.
Great. Tanya, Aliya.
Yeah, so we have built some for promo codes and all of those things, we have built some in-house tools, but for data mining, all that, we use Tableau as well.
Okay, great. Aliya, would you like to say anything before we end the webinar?
No, thank you very much for this awesome experience. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope the people who have joined this webinar also were benefited from, the experiences of my fellow panelists and Ali and Fawad. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Fawad, Aliya, Ayesha. It was great speaking to you guys. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.